shine. 6 a.m. and your hand can't make it to the alarm clock before the voices in your head start telling you that it's too early, too dark, and too cold to get out of bed.
Wake up, America. It's morning, and morning is amazing.
Good morning.
Say, who gets to make the coffee in your house?
Come on, it's 6 o'clock. Rise and shine.
There is nothing sexier than a woman that you have to salute in the morning. Meet Nikki.
Please welcome Nikki. Nikki.
My name is Nikki.
Get up. Get up.
All right, I'm getting up.
Up. Come on, out of bed.
All right, I'm up.
And I'm feeling good.
Good morning, people. Yeah, I had to play that opening. If you've never heard it, which apparently a lot of people have not, that was the 6 a.m. wake-up call for so many of you. But it is not the morning anymore. It's 12 noon. A hell of a lot easier time to wake up. I am Nikki Medoro. Thank you for coming and joining me on the very first Nikki Medoro Show. I do want to give a big thank you to Mark Thompson, who I hope many of you were just listening to. This is a new day. Kim McAllister will also be joining me. It's just me and Kim for right now. So please forgive us and give me any feedback. There's a lot of announcements to make to start off the show. The first one is it's all new branding. So the NikkiMedoroShow.com is where you can find everything. The links to this YouTube channel. You can also find links to my Patreon, which again, the day after the layoffs, I did a Facebook Live, if any of you were able to catch that. And I was talking about how important it is to support, and I said local radio, but this is going to be local broadcasting. I would love it. Again, if I could do this show and pay my bills and help Kim pay her bills with the love that we've been receiving over the past week or so, we'd be rich, but that's not the way it works. So again, we do have a Patreon set up. The NikkiMedoroShow.com is where you can get everything. Now, again, a lot of us are learning the ways the YouTubes work, right? There's a thumb. You see it. You see it right down there. Click it. Every single show, if you can't donate to the Patreon, which I get it. These are tough financial times for a lot of people. A simple thumbs up on every single show helps so much. Don't ask me how. That's above my pay grade. There's some sort of algorithm thing that YouTube does, and it increases our exposure, as they say. But that's the best way to immediately. So everybody right now, I mean, you have your mouse right there. Just click the thumbs up. And it really, really helps us out a lot. Again, the show, it's going to be evolving. I hope to start doing additional shows. Oh, Kim McAllister is here. Let's say good morning to Kim. There's her face. Good morning, Kim McAllister.
Good morning.
Thank you for sliding on over into our show right now. I'm explaining to everyone about the new website and smashing that thumbs up button right now.
That's a big picture of me. Ooh, that's bigger than I thought it would be.
I love it. Is that your best friend right there?
That's my sister.
That's your sister? Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. That's
So-
my sister Erin.
Hi, Erin.
Yeah.
So I'm explaiing to people just
Look
kind
at
of what the
you.
show is going to look like.
You look gorgeous with lipstick and everything. You didn't look like this in the morning at 6 a.m.
Wow. Well, it's amazing.
Wow.
Hours, showers make. I always laugh. My husband always laughs at me. I go,
You're hot.
shower.
My little piece of paper fell off my camera this morning, and the Mark Thompson viewers got to see me. I'm in my nightgown and my hair was still wet. So that's how it worked out for me today.
I don't get a pajama flash on my show. I mean,
No,
like
no,
you really
no.
change your clothes.
It was a bad moment.
I'm almost positive you're still in your PJs right now, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's nightgown news, sister. We're at home now.
There we go. I do want to let all of you guys know and give a huge, huge thank you to our founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. Now, Steve believes in our shows, Mark Thompson's show and my show. And I could not thank him more. He will be on this hour and next hour. But again, this show won't have commercials like it did on that other station. Steve is our founding sponsor and our exclusive sponsor. And so if you are looking for tax advice, if you're looking for a tax attorney, of course, 888 Tax Deal or MoskowitzLLP.com. Supporting him is a way of also supporting the show. And again, another reminder, thumbs up. Just smash that thumbs up button right now. And that really, really helps all of us get the exposure that we need. And again, Nikki Medoro Show, the NikkiMedoroShow.com is where you can get all the links to everything about our show. So let's get into it, Kim. Now, I feel like we've been talking a lot about what's happened, but there was an interesting conversation, Kim, that we had, and that was about telling our kids that we had been laid off. It was weird for me, if I'm going to be honest. I didn't know how they were going to take it. Also want to add, the live chat is going. I'm seeing some of the comments. Kim is going to monitor the comments for us. So if there's anything that you want to add, Kim, just throw it in there. But I do have this question, and you guys can throw it in the chat. How have you, if you've ever been laid off, how'd you explain it to your kids? So for me, not for nothing, they made me drive all the way in and work and then laid me off, which is fine. It is what it is. It came as a shock, but then I was home. I picked him up.
Last full show ever on Station X.
And what did we say right when I hit so I always lock out my show, talk tomorrow between 6 and 10, and I turn my mic off. And I go, maybe,
because we had gotten an email of a full staff meeting, which never happened. So we all thought, uh-oh. And
I didn't. I was optimistic. Remember?
You were like, don't worry about it. I'm like, yeah, we're goners. That's it.
No.
And I when I got that message the night before, I told my husband, I said, I don't think I'm going to have a job tomorrow. I think this is it. Party over for me. Party of one, you're out. And so we told my daughter that she had gone from, and this is such, one of the, big problems to have, right? She had gone to 2 days a week horseback riding, which she loves. It's her thing. Right. It's also extraordinarily expensive. So I said,
expensive habit,
you're
hobby.
Probably going to have to go back down to 1 day a week. And she said, why? And I said, well, I don't think I'm going to have a job tomorrow. And so I told her before it even happened, but you know what you don't do, because then the next day when I confirmed it, it's hard for them. They carry it around even if you don't think they do. And she got in the car for the next several days in a bad mood. I said, what's wrong? And she goes, I'm sad. And I'm having a bad day. I said, why are you having a bad day? Well, you lost your job and it's just sad. And so they carry it and they think about it more than we do. But when we went to the horseback riding place, the instructor knows, and we went back down to 1 day a week.
Right.
And she said, actually, I can hire Julia, and I'd like to hire her at $15 an hour. And that will pay for both of her lessons. So Julia has a job. Guess who doesn't have a job? Me. My 13-year-old daughter has a job and I do not. How much of a loser am I?
You're not. And we have this job, although again, there's a Patreon going for us to actually make this a paying job, right, Kim? But I'm reading in the chat room, someone says you don't tell them. You just say, oh, here it is, that you just say that mom's job is evolving. I didn't do that.
No, that would have been interesting. I mean, is that lying though?
It's not. I mean, your job is evolving. There's a truth to that. I would say this. I mean, ever since I started at that station, I've always known the day could come.
It's like Voldemort. Right? He who shall not be named.
Well, I just don't want to bash anybody. Yeah. But I always knew, and we kind of set up our life with that thinking. I constantly have the conversation with my husband, like, I don't know if I'm going to have a job next year. And so we've kind of set up our life that way.
It's not just that station. It's just this medium in general.
Exactly.
When you work in broadcasting in general, you have to go, okay, I've got to have a good savings account because one never knows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when I called my husband after the station went to I said, the day that we always feared would come has come.
Yeah.
And he made some sort of joke. And I said, no, turn on the radio. And he was shocked. And so then I went to go pick up the kids. And I didn't know if I should tell them right away. And so I didn't. They sat and they came in the car. And then I just was like, well, I was laid off today. And they're like, well, what does that mean? My son was. And I told them, I'm like, I'm not on that station anymore. And they're like, oh, and they were really sweet. They're like, are you okay? And I said, yes. And then my daughter was, trying to cheer me up with some funny videos later that evening. I don't know if it's fully hit them, but you know what hit me, Kim? The identity crisis that we have,
Yeah.
when you do a certain job for so long. I felt like my kids, and just for a brief moment, because I know they love me, but I felt just for a moment that they were going to look at me differently because their mom wasn't on the radio anymore,
Oh, no.
And they don't.
They don't
They've seen
care.
me. They've seen me
No.
work my butt off to
Yeah.
get this show going. My husband has been so supportive. All of you. I mean, so many people have been so supportive, which is great. But it is that identity crisis, right? Of, how do I explain what's going on to my kids when all they knew is mom woke up really early, drove to San Francisco, worked the hours there, and came home. And they got to
Right.
tell all their friends, you just turn on the radio and there's my mom. And I'm not there anymore. And whether it's radio or something else, it has to be hard for parents to try to explain that to their kids. It just
Yeah.
does. Let me read some of the text or the chat that is coming in. I do think that, the compassion, and that's what a lot of you are mentioning, having some sort of compassion to tell your kids. Karen Cooper wrote in, you can tell kids the truth. They're smarter than people think. Absolutely. And that's what I didn't want to dumb it down for my kids. I didn't want to act like it wasn't happening because they look to us for the guidance that they need. Also talking about the kind of parent-child relationship. And I know this happened probably a little more than a week ago, but I really did want to talk about it. So apparently there's this leaked voicemail. It was from 2018. And it was from President Biden. Obviously, he wasn't president at the time, to his son, Hunter. Okay. I want to show you. Okay. Now I'm doing this all on my own, people. So I want you to all be very proud of me that I'm doing this all on my own. But it was this text about how President Biden was basically trying to urge his child who has a drug problem to take care of himself. So this was the leaked message. I wanted to see if I could bring it up for you completely. But basically it was just, the leaked version was, it's Dad. I called to tell you I love you. I love you more than the whole world, pal. You got to get some help. I don't know what to do. I know you don't either. Apparently, he was being vilified for this voicemail on Fox News. This was on Hannity. What's the purpose of, I don't know, trolling a parent about comforting a son, a child that has a drug problem? And do you see this as some sort of judgment? Do you think President Biden should be judged by the drug-induced behavior of his son, Hunter? Now I know the laptop. I know, how the story was quote unquote suppressed, even though everyone and their mother knows about it. I understand that. But that's not the argument I'm trying to have. And I'm done talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. You can talk about it ad nauseum online if you want to. My question is, then just not President Biden, but now President Biden has a child that has a drug problem, a long-standing drug problem. And he's being criticized, it appears, through this leaked voicemail for what? Comforting him? Trying to help him, taking phone calls, understanding that his behavior may not be the best behavior. How are we supposed to read into this leaked voicemail and the criticism that comes from I don't know, people on the right, Fox News, commentators like that. I mean, what are we supposed to take from that? I mean, Kim, how many people do we know that, have children or have relatives that have a drug problem, an
Yeah.
alcohol problem? And should the parent or the relative be judged on that? I mean, do you
I
think
don't
that's
think so.
fair?
I think you can be a great parent and one of the most wonderful people in the world, and stuff just happens. You can tell your kid till you're blue in the face, don't do drugs. This is bad for you. Don't do this. This is going to
Right.
lead nowhere good. If you never start, you never have to stop. All these things that we say, right? And
Right.
then they somehow do it anyway. Maybe they have an addictive personality. Maybe they just fell in with the wrong crowd. You don't know what
Yeah.
happens to people. And so I don't know if you can always blame the parents. Now, in some cases, yeah, you have parents doing drugs with their kids. They've been
Exactly.
kind of groomed to do it from a young age. But on the other hand, that's not always the case. So how do you apply this, blanket judgment to people when you just don't know?
Exactly. All right. Coming up, we're going to continue kind of this conversation because a listener sent me this article, and it's kind of the ripple effect of a family member doing wrong, whether it's a crime, doing drugs, and how it can impact family members. Because in Illinois, it's going to blow your mind. In Illinois, people are getting evicted because of the crimes committed by relatives or even just guests
No, that's
at their
interesting.
home. It is crazy. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But right now, it is the one, the only, the founding sponsor of our show, Steve Moskowitz, joining us live. Steve, I do want to take a moment again to thank you so much for being the exclusive sponsor of the Nikki Medoro Show. This is the first show we're going to have you on, and I know you help so many people. But again, Steve, thank you so much.
Nikki, the pleasure is all mine. And as I shared with you personally, in addition to being a sponsor, I'm your listener.
Yeah.
And like I was saying to Mark, is in the daytime when I'm usually busy, what I used to do was go to the podcast of Station X, and I would listen to you in the evening. And when Station X did what they did, oh my God, who am I going to listen to?
Yeah.
So I'm benefiting as a listener as well. I just love hearing you back on the air.
Well, thank you. Now, of course, you are here to help all of our listeners with all of their tax needs, including educating them about things like the ERC, right?
That's right. And ERC is where employers can get up to $26,000 for every qualified employee. And as you know, we talk about that in a lot of detail. But today is a special day in the tax world, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Today is 10/17, or you have until midnight tonight to file your extended individual and C Corp returns. And
That's
over the
midnight
week,
tonight?
midnight tonight.
Wow. Okay. Keep that in
And
mind, people.
And just like in the movies, there are still a lot of people and firms that are furiously working trying to meet that midnight deadline. And a lot of people today are getting a surprise from their tax returns saying that they are astonished that they could possibly owe so much money and they don't have the money to pay it. What to do? Step one, don't make the mistake of not filing the return. That's where the big penalties are. And there's a lot we want to do for you here. Whether we ask the government to give you an offer in compromise, that's where you just pay part and the government forgives the rest, or you pay in monthly installments, or you have the penalties forgiven, or, sometimes people just get fired and lose their jobs out of the blue. It could happen to anyone.
Can happen to anybody, Steve.
And all of a sudden says, well, how am I going to pay my taxes? I don't have my job anymore. There's something called a hardship deferral where we go to the government and just say, look, leave my client alone until he or she gets their new job or starts their new business. Then we'll work something out with you. So there's a lot that can be done. Don't make the mistake of not filing the return. Don't make the mistake of sticking your head in the sand. Because remember, those 87,000 agents that the IRS is in the process of hiring have to do something. And this is part of their jobs. And they've gotten more aggressive. Bottom line is, we're here to help you. And we'll talk lots more in the future about ERC. But today I wanted to talk about this.
Perfect. So give Steve Moskowitz a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or at moskowitzllp.com. Steve, talk to you next time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Bye. So again, please always support our sponsors. And again, a big, huge thank you to Steve Moskowitz for sponsoring our show. Okay. So yeah, I really appreciate everybody reaching out. Again, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button right there at the bottom on YouTube. It helps us so much with exposure. You see it, right? You smashing that thumbs up. The NikkiMedoroShow.com, the one-stop shop to get all the links to the shows and everything like that. And of course, my email, the Nikki Medoro Show @gmail.com. You can also send me articles, things that you want to talk about, anything that you want, you can email me as well. And a listener sent me this story. Now, this was in the Daily Beast. It's crazy. Okay. So this actually happened in 2019. So here's the story. A van goes missing. All right. And it's found by the cops. And there's two people inside, a man and a woman, and they had stolen it. Okay. Cut and dry. They're arrested and they're charged. Now, this is the crazy part. Apparently, the woman who was arrested, her mother lived in the city in Illinois. It's Granite City. She stayed there with her partner, Andy, and two of their grandchildren. They're fine. They get along with their landlord. All right. Well, days after the daughter stole the van, the landlord and Debbie, the mom, get a letter from the police department in Granite City. It said that they had to be evicted because of their association with a lawbreaker. Now, again, Debbie didn't steal the van. Neither did her partner, Andy, nor the grandchildren. And apparently, simply because they have something called crime-free housing, these people could get evicted because of the crimes of relatives. Isn't this insane?
Wow.
Now,
that's interesting. Yeah.
Now, here's my question, though. So I thought about this. I'm like, okay, why would you want something like this? Why would you ever support a law that would punish those that had nothing to do with the crime? And then I'm wondering, do you think that if you were a criminal or considering doing something bad, maybe stealing a van, it would make you think twice if those that you love and care about could actually be harmed because of your crime? Do you think that extending punishment to those who did not commit the crime or the infraction or whatever would have an effect on reducing crime in our neighborhood?
I guess you could say, I'm sure that police would say, listen, when we make an arrest of someone, it's often that we've arrested other people in the same family.
Right.
And so, these folks may be all be involved in different things, and maybe they didn't steal the van or weren't involved in that particular case, but guilt by association, right? And we've been called to this residence multiple times, and it's time for them to go. That may be the case, but it just seems to me rather unfair to just have this, and as I said before, blanket, if you're anywhere near these people, you're out. That just doesn't seem okay.
No. Now, if you knew, and here's a question again, and you can send it in the live chat. You can also email Nikki, the Nikki Medoro Show @gmail.com. If you knew your family could be punished for your bad deeds, would it make you think twice? And would it make you want to break a connection with the family member if you worried that they would be committing crime? So to take it back to what we were talking about Biden and Hunter, should he stop leaving voicemails for his son? Should he cut off all communication because of the backlash that could be on him? If you knew, now again, this is in Granite City, Illinois. I'm not saying it's happening in San Jose, California, but we talk about how to deter crime. Is this the way it should be done? You can even extend it to kids. If someone that's underage commits a crime, and in many cases, the parents can be held responsible for it, but should the punishment be even tougher on some of the parents, on some of the relatives that may have contact with that child? Because that is what maybe the perpetrator would actually feel and want to avoid happening because it's their own family member. I'm not quite sure if I support this, but I was listening to Mark Thompson's show before this, and he had San Francisco DA Brooke Jenkins on. Great interview, by the way. If you missed it, you can obviously go back and listen to Mark's YouTube channel. But that people are always talking about these crimes that are committed. And, whether it's the smash and grab or the home burglaries or what have you, and that the punishment's not strong enough. Could holding family members that are just innocent accountable be a way of making criminals think twice? All right, let me check some of the comments coming in.
We got some good ones.
All right, go ahead. Read some of them for me.
Karen D writes, this is interesting that the sins of the father are also the sins of the son. She says that's an old Bible saying and could apply here.
Yeah, I mean, that's
also,
a good thing.
She also says, makes reference to that in school, when a kid gets in trouble in school, she says they always question the friends of the kids who commit the crime, guilt by association.
Well, now the court, I'm glad that you mentioned that. The court shrugged off this crime deterrence and prevention law. They say family-wide evictions was obviously striking in its breadth and reach. They allowed the family to appeal the decision, but they say that this is putting a spotlight on this crime-free housing laws that are found in a place like Granite City, Illinois. According to this article, studies showed that these types of laws fall hardest on low-income Black and Hispanic communities. Because honestly, if you have a bad apple in your family, you hope that I would hope that you'd want to be a support to them to hopefully get them on the right track. But how do you do that without putting your own housing and livelihood at risk? They say since 2009, the U.S. Department of Justice has been suing, this is in California, Hesperia, California, over a crime-free housing law that the DOJ maintains was racially discriminatory in both intent and effect. In Faribault, Minnesota, they had to pay a $685,000 settlement challenging what they call racially biased enforcement of its crime-free housing program. Now, I can understand not wanting to have to rent to somebody that might have criminals coming in and out of your home. But to evict people that have no criminal history just because of the association, that's just creating such a hardship on someone that may not have any power to change the reality of that situation. And so now I don't like the idea, but I understand, I guess, the goal of it. I just don't know how you enforce something like that without it extending and hurting so many innocent people. Okay, we are actually coming up on the bottom of the hour. Kim is also going to be doing news at the bottom of the hour, so stay tuned. Also coming up in the next hour, in about an hour from now, I'm going to be speaking with the San Francisco Chronicle's Kevin Fagan. If you didn't hear, they've made an arrest in the Stockton. Are we calling it the Stockton serial killer? Because I know that there's extensions into Oakland, but basically
Stockton
the Stockton
serial killer. Yeah,
I think that's what we're naming it. Okay, so the Stockton serial killer, they made an arrest. What were you going to say?
That just because most of the killings happened in Stockton. So
okay, so they made an arrest. His name is Wesley Brownlee, and so Kevin Fagan, who I was talking to yesterday, Kim, and I was unaware that he has been covering serial killers for decades. So it's absolutely fascinating. He's also writing a book on homelessness, but we'll get into what was found with the Stockton serial killer. And maybe, is there a motive been released? We don't know any of that yet, but Kevin Fagan will join us at 1:30 after Kim does her news. There's a lot coming up, but right now I hand it over to Kim McAllister with a look at what's happening out there. Go ahead, Kim.
Well, this is a report from the Nikki Medoro Show. I'm Kim McAllister, and this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Republican members of a congressional oversight committee are asking the Department of Justice now to investigate how a man known as Fat Leonard was able to escape from his San Diego home, that despite being monitored by the federal government. Leonard Glenn Francis led authorities on an international manhunt before he was captured, and at the moment is still being held in Venezuela. Venezuela. He was convicted for his role in a bribery scandal, which took down several Navy officers. In a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland, the committee members are seeking all documents and all communications about Fat Leonard among Justice Department employees and between DOJ employees and state or local law enforcement agencies. A suspected serial killer here in Northern California, as Nikki was mentioning, will be arraigned in court today. Police in Stockton had been searching for a serial killer who shot 5 men in the city since July. On Saturday, police arrested 43-year-old Wesley Brownlee, who they believe is responsible for 6 deadly shootings that started in 2021, with 1 death in Oakland last year, is now connected to the 5 deaths in Stockton. All of these shooting deaths have been linked to one gun. According to investigators, many of the shooting deaths in Stockton took place near the suspect's home or those of his relatives. Brownlee was armed when he was arrested, and police believe he was hunting for more victims. He has a criminal history with at least 4 cases in San Joaquin County. 3 of them, though, are traffic violations. He's being held without bail on open charges, including felony murder. Hurricanes just keep getting worse. That, according to scientists at the Department of Energy. A study published in Geophysical Research Letters showed climate change is driving harsher storm systems along the Atlantic coast. The deadly opioid fentanyl continues to surge across the southern border. Congressman Tony Gonzalez has now filed a bill to classify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. The Texas border Republican says the Fed seized nearly 13,000 pounds of fentanyl this year. Just last week, customs agents in South Texas seized $1 million worth of it hidden in a tractor trailer coming in from Mexico. Gonzalez's bill would direct the Office of National Drug Control Policy to assess the administration's border efforts. And we'll take a look at another story here out of Hollywood. Actor Ralph Macchio is out with a new memoir. He is best known for his starring role in The Karate Kid in the 80s, more recently with Cobra Kai on Netflix. He says his new book is called Waxing On, The Karate Kid and Me, is about how the Karate Kid shaped and continues to shape his life.
I think it's Macchio, by the way.
Oh, is it Macchio? Sorry, what did I say? Macchio?
I think so. Like you're thinking he's the coffee from Starbucks, and I don't think that's correct. But go ahead with your sponsor.
Wax on, Ralph. You go for it, baby. This report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. So if you need help with your taxes, please give Steve a call. We love him so much. 888-TAX-STEAL, or you can reach him on the web, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Yay. I need to get I'm going to work on some music and some transitions. This is my very first show. And again, if you all are just joining us, this is the Nikki Medoro Show that we have created following the end of, I guess we could just say at the end of KGO, as we all knew it.
The world as we know
there
it.
We go. I can't play that much music on here, but we'll figure it all out. Tomorrow, also, I want to let you guys know Chip Franklin will be joining us for a little bit. We'll talk probably some politics and have some fun with Chip. So I know a lot of you were reaching out about that. Let me read a couple more before we move on regarding the story I was talking about before Kim's news. And that was what was happening in Granite City, Illinois. And just the nickel version basically is crime is committed by one woman, and her mom and partner are evicted because they have this crime-free housing law. And I understand the motivation of wanting to rent to people that won't bring problems to your neighborhood or to your house. I can't imagine renting my home and all of a sudden there's drug dealing going on or prostitution or, they got a chop shop in the back. I don't know what's going on, right? I don't want that nonsense at my rental. That's one hand. On the other hand, though, how far does that extend? I just don't think, and somebody put in the chat and I could not agree more. And I think this is really the point. It's just going to make the problem of homelessness worse. You're going to evict people who are paying their rent, who are good tenants, but because of the fact that they are related to somebody that is gone down a dark path, all of a sudden they're evicted. And so I don't like this idea. And again, there's a Hesperia in California is facing a lawsuit over that. And so hopefully they tweak this enough where you actually have to be involved in the crime. Maybe you were letting them hide in your house, or you were loaning them money that was used for the crime. If there was some sort of line, I can maybe see some justification for that, but otherwise, no, thank you. Okay, again, smash that thumbs up right now. If you're listening to the show and you want to see it continue, YouTube, of course, has some sort of algorithm that makes it so you thumbs up means something, and it expands our exposure and things like that. But speaking of the
up means I like you, Nikki.
Yes,
Thumbs up
thank
to
you.
you. Yeah.
You can put a thumbs up and think it's a different finger as well. Oh, hold on. Let's do this. I think it's a different thing as
No, we're
well.
not doing that. No.
Just smash it. I don't care. Care what the reason is for you to want to hit it. But apparently, did you know about the thumbs up, Kim McAllister? That
tell me.
The thumbs up is not cool. According to a survey, the thumbs up emoji is considered rude.
Really?
According to Gen Z, which we love you, Gen Z, but they say it makes people look old. Among the list of emojis that make texters look old to Gen Z, not to us, to Gen Z, the red heart, which I use probably a million times a day.
I'm a consistent red heart user.
I love the red heart. The clapping hands, I guess it's the side one that goes like that. The clapping hands.
Why
and
does
the
that
check
make
mark.
you old?
I don't know. And the check mark. I will tell you this. Anytime I do the laughing, crying emoji, my daughter's like, Dad, stop doing that. Stop doing that. And she's 13. Not quite sure what generation the 13-year-olds are in right now. But yeah, she says, don't do the crying emoji. They like the skeleton to mean dead, I guess. That's the one I see all the time. Also, that's the cactus.
Morbid.
Yeah, but it's like dead, like laughing dead. Like,
you
killed me. That's how she explained it to me. I don't know. I'm not hip enough to understand that.
OCB or texting and Gen Z is a lost cause.
Oh, there we go. Well, until they become old enough,
Huge in Japan says so old equals rude now. What? Yeah, why is old rude? I don't know what that is.
Well, they say the thumbs up is rude. Not being old is rude, but the thumbs up is rude. Now, remember... go ahead.
Have you ever written I don't know, not a diatribe, but just something heartfelt, or you said something was nice or something, and someone just responds with a thumbs up? You're like, it didn't really mean as much to you as it did to me.
I hate when I make like a novel text to somebody, and then they go, okay. I go,
okay.
I
thumbs
want
up.
more,
okay.
Damn it. At least give me an emoji, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember Kaylee McEnany?
How could we forget?
Yeah, you can't forget her. So apparently, according to this survey of Gen Z saying that the thumbs up is old, she's like, my top emojis are the thumbs up. Now, she's not that old, but the thumbs up. Then get this. She says, the brown swirl, which I don't know if that's pudding, and the red heart. No.
Is the brown swirl the turd emoji?
It's shit. Yeah, it's absolutely.
Yeah.
It's poop.
Look at you said that. We're not on the radio anymore, Dorothy.
It is poop. How about that? It's poop. I don't know anybody that thought that's pudding, except Kaylee McEnany, who is full of poop saying that. I don't know. You can't judge me by my emojis. That's all I'm saying. I will judge generations by the asinine things that they do on social media for clicks. Remember, like the Tide Pods. And I mean, we talk about this all the time, Kim. Every time we see something in the news about some other challenge that's sending kids to the hospital, I pull my kids aside and I'm like, if I catch you doing this nonsense on any sort of video or with your friends, I'm going to kill you. Like, please do not make yourself a news story. Please. But the reason why so many kids may be exposed to this is apparently a third of social media users aged 8 to 17 have the online age of an adult because they sign up with a false birth date. It's almost as if that little box that tells you to put in your birth date isn't really that high of a bar to decide who's allowed to be on the website or not. That's just me.
We got a text from Green Eggs and Ham. My 19-year-old responds with noted whenever I check in.
Ooh.
Well, you know,
I
it's
might
because
try the noted. That's pretty
noted,
good.
noted.
Noted.
And I think the thumbs up is good because if someone just says something brief, like, you know, I'll meet you at 3:00, or, you know,
Yes.
whatever it is, like, it's a way to show, yes, I've seen what you're telling me and acknowledging it, right?
I understand that. But I think, you know what is also apparently rude when you're texting or responding? Periods. Like at the end of the sentence. So if I said okay, that's one thing. But if I say okay, period, that means something
Is
else.
that like with making a point out of it?
Or it's rude, or it's like
Oh,
aggressive, or they think it.
oh,
But I'm like, these kids, they read way too much into it. Now, back to the kids being on platforms they're not old enough to be on.
yes.
Most of the kids aged 8 to 17 who use social media have their own profile on at least one of them. And they say when a child self declares a false age to gain access to social media or online games, which is an important point, they also claim the user age, which lets them view inappropriate for their age material. So when we're talking about kids being exposed, let's say to pornography,
Yeah.
or they're at risk of interacting with adults who think they're adults, but they're not because they're like only 10 years old and pretending that they're 21, this is the problem. They say the study that they did cover it, and this was in the UK, by the way. It covered 6 of the leading platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube, all of which have age limits of 13. It suggests that 32% of children age 8 to 17 um, have these fake age accounts. Nearly half of children in the same age bracket have a user age over 16. If I was going to fake my age for a website, I would definitely make myself a full-on adult. Not that I'm promoting that, but I mean, do the math. And so there's this online safety bill which wants to impose more restrictions on websites to make sure that the people that they allow on their sites are actually the age that they are. I don't know how you're ever going to do that, though. Sometimes if you go to like Budweiser's website, put in your age to tell us that you're over the age of 21. What the hell is that going to do? All you have to do is math, figure it out, and there you go. I just don't think that hoop is high enough for people to go through. Let's see. Speaking of things, stupid things that people do, and parents actually using social media to promote it. Did you see this kid? He's in the emergency room, all right? And everybody is like around him. And why is everybody around him? Because the poor kid, I'm going to show it to you. The poor kid has swallowed a dog toy.
Why? What happened?
This is what it sounds like. Hold on, let me play it for you.
Say hi to Boy Scout.
Hi.
Oh,
Look at the nurse in the background. She's like losing her mind. So yeah, so apparently this kid he somehow inhaled this dog toy. And it was in Texas. He's 13 years old. His name is Jonathan Serrano. Apparently he was getting ready for a camping trip when he did this. And he was trying to keep the dog toy away and somehow put it in his mouth to try to keep it, and then swallowed it.
it must have been
And so they
really small.
It had to be. I mean, they had to remove it from his esophagus with a scope, but
Oh,
not before his
God.
mom, of course, had to use social media to laugh at the poor kid.
You
She
think they're 13 and they're almost grown up, and you start treating them a little differently, and then you
Yeah.
realize they do something boneheaded like that, and you're like, yeah, they're still a kid. Yeah.
Have you ever removed something weird from your body? And what's the weirdest thing that you've ever removed from your body?
No,
Besides a
but
human being, of course.
interesting that you would ask me this question,
Okay.
because I used to work in an emergency room, and
Oh,
people
okay.
would come to the ER with the craziest things in their body. And it's more than just a cockroach in the ear, which is barf inducing, right? But
Right.
many interesting things tucked into the bottom, we should say. Like,
Why do people use the bottom or the vagina? Let's just use the
right?
word as a purse. Like, don't. It's
It's not a
it's
purse.
not a bag. It's not a Louis Vuitton or
So
anything like
there's a famous picture of an X-ray of I don't know, I want to say 10 Barbie heads that were up somebody's rear end. I don't know, whatever. Whether one old woman came in and said she sat on a jar and couldn't get it out. Yeah, right. You sat on the jar. So it's like it was a thin kind of olive jar that had lodged in her
Was it glass?
her rear end. Yeah, yeah. Uh, one was a ball. Someone had a ball, like a wiffle ball, and every time the doctor tried to grab it, it would, you know how they kind of cave in, so they couldn't get a hold on it. So he had to just to kind of create this tool out of a bunch of other medical tools that would inflate it and pull it out at the same time. It was great engineering in the emergency room, but it's crazy the amount of things that people come in. And then in the male member, in the penis, I have seen the cocktail stir, because one couldn't maintain the proper,
Correction.
Yes. And then, so they stick a cocktail stir and then couldn't get that out because that's apparently quite painful.
No.
Yes. So I'm glad that you asked, Nikki. It is not an uncommon situation to, apparently get things lodged in places where you are humiliated when you have to go into the emergency room.
Okay, so tell me in the live chat, people, weirdest thing you've removed from your body or seen removed from, and it has to be real. I want the story. So I only have one story, and it's nothing like what you're thinking. Nothing like you're thinking. And I think I actually shared this story one time. I got, the cap guns. You put the and it goes pop, pop, pop. The little red caps. So when I was a kid, I don't know why. So don't ask me why. But I stuck one up my nose. And I could not get it out. And obviously, the farther I stuck my finger in, farther back it went. And I remember I was with my brother and my grandma. I think our parents were at out to dinner or something. And I remember my grandmother had this great idea that she was going to give me ice. And I think her thinking was, it's going to form boogers or something hard to get it out.
Okay.
I think I end up swallowing it. I don't think it ever actually came out, but I remember how scared I was because I could smell, whatever's in it that makes the cap.
Right.
I felt like it was burning inside my head. I was so scared that it was just going to be stuck up there and I was going to hit my face and it was going to explode inside of my nose. But that's pretty much the only thing that I've ever had removed from my body besides children, which aren't weird. It's actually normal.
My husband just came in to tell you a story. It's kind of like we're taking a live call. You ready for this?
Oh, let's do it, David.
Okay. I have two half sisters. They're my sisters. Mm-hmm. And when they were young, my youngest sister, Emily, my stepmother, the nurse, goes back and she's unbuckling Emily from the car seat and notices a horrible smell coming from Emily's face. Can't figure out what it is. Come to find out, Emily had been removing pieces of the foam rubber from her car seat and stuffing it up her nose.
Oh,
and she had such a horrible sinus infection. They pulled about an 8-inch long piece of infected foam rubber out of her nose from the ER.
Well, thank God they figured out what it was, though. Wow.
Emily, by the way, I should note, has huge nostrils. And as a similar story, Natalie is texting last month, I removed a piece of paper from my 7th grader's ear that he put in there when he was in 1st grade. Oh. His doctor couldn't find it 6 years ago, so no one believed his story back then.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of that, I mean, let's just share body stories, shall we? So anybody that's actually followed me on KGO knows for a while, like that I have a scar on my forehead. Now, if you don't know how I originally got the scar, I'm sure my father is going to love that I'm sharing the story again. When I was 2 years old, I stupidly decided to hide under my father's car. Now, you hear tragic stories like this all the time, and every time I see it, I think of this. I hid under my dad's car. He did not know I was under there. He leaves to go to school and he hits me, and the undercarriage of the car hit me. Okay. So I lived. I mean, it was a whole thing. I obviously lived. Thank God. He stopped and didn't think it was a ball and kept going. But I ended up having a scar and gravel and they had to wash it out. Fast forward. What was it? It was right before COVID. So it had to be, 2019. All of a sudden I'm at work and I'm feeling my head. Okay. And I feel like it's getting this bump on it, like but a mound around the scar that I've always had since I was 2 years old. So I go in and I'm getting whatever it is removed because they don't know what it is. They're messing with it. They don't know. They pull it out. And I have to find the picture because I'll share it. I'll share it on my social media. It's so gross. It looks, if I'm going to be honest, it wasn't though. Okay, so I'm going to preface this by saying it was not what I'm going to say it looked like, but it looked like a maggot. It was like bumpy, but it was like skin. It was gross. Okay.
Did we keep it in a jar on your dresser? No.
That's a callback. We're going to explain that callback. Okay. No, I did not keep it. I did not keep it. But it was really, really gross. Okay. And so I'm asking, and they sent it off to make sure it wasn't cancer or anything like that. And so what they think it was actual gravel from that accident when I was 2 years old. It just was kind of more embedded and they didn't get it washed out and I healed. And it was slowly making its way up through my forehead.
Wow.
So now, and they were really nice. They went through the old scar, but now I have another bump that's going to take years to go down, I'm sure. But yeah, is that weird?
That is weird.
So odd. It was, I mean, so many people. Dennis is on the live chat. Yeah, can you see my dog?
Yeah, he's hanging out.
That's the business end.
That's Nugget.
That's Nugs. Yeah, he's just completely passed out. He's my producer. He just he nudges me to move on to another topic. Apparently,
Super Mike A says a doctor removed a BB from my head when I was 10. It was between my scalp and my skull.
Wow.
Laura
Who
B
shot
writes.
You?
Yeah, I wondered. Yeah, tell us, Super Mike. Laura B says a needle was in her knee because she was fighting over a damn Barbie doll and a fish hook stuck in the head. Walked to the ER with a fishing rod. Huh. That's yeah.
No. Siblings, right? I mean, that's probably that sounds like a sibling fight to me. All right, you can continue to send in what kind of weird things have you removed from your body or had to remove from somebody's body? Because parents out there, you're removing all kinds of weird stuff.
Do you see this text from Eric? My mom, he says, had a plate put in to fuse some vertebra and ended up coughing up a titanium screw.
What?
I don't know that's really crazy, Eric. I don't know.
That is absolutely nuts. Yeah, some people, you wonder how they survived all of these things stuck in their body. I jumped off a 3rd-story deck, got stuck in the snow, and had to be dug out. Okay, well, that was your whole entire body that you needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
From Lynn, I stuck a cherry pit in my nose. I don't remember doing it, but I sneezed. Out came the cherry pit, and I had a huge nosebleed. A neighbor lady who did not have any children witnessed it.
Yeah.
I'm sure she was surprised.
I'm sure she was surprised as well. Okay, so another reminder, this is the first show. I am appreciating everybody who is watching right now. If you can just do me the biggest favor, and it's the easiest thing. The bar is so low right now. Just click that thumbs up button. Just hit it. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate you and I love you. You need to do this every show also, by the way. I don't know why. It's above my pay grade. If anybody wants to explain it to me in a way I will understand, I welcome it. But apparently, YouTube loves the thumbs up. And so if you do it every single show for my show and Mark's show, please do it because we want to continue to grow the show. I'm seeing a lot of messages about Pat and John. When we know something about their plans, you will hear it here first. I mean, and we will promote the hell out of it, whatever they're doing. I don't happen to know, Kim, I don't think that you know yet what the plan is, but
I talked to both of them, and Pat may have some irons in the fire, but is not ready to announce anything yet.
Okay.
As far as John Rothman goes, he doesn't seem to, he says he has done podcasts before, and he didn't find that it was what he wanted to do again. So I don't think that he'll be joining us on this podcast platform, but that doesn't mean that we can't have him on as a guest here and there. And that's definitely something he said he would help us out with.
Right. And that's the thing is it takes a lot of work to put something like this on. And so again, you can find the links to my show to share with all of your friends and family. The Nikki Medoro Show.com is the website. We do have a Patreon up. It's awkward asking for money. but we don't have jobs.
You feel like a beggar with your hand out. Help us, help us.
This is our job now. And we're going to be here for as long as we can and as long as we can afford it. And so while it's odd to be doing, I heard Mark kind of compare it to the public radio, drives that they always do, but ours is an ongoing one because I'd love to pay Kim and pay myself and kind of get some money generating so we could do more things with the show as well. I'm stoked completely that we were able to get this show. It's been a little more than a week and we're back in front of you interacting and I'm so happy about it, but it does take money and an investment. So if you have the means and it could be a little, it could be a lot, just go to the Patreon that we have set up. And again, you can find all those links on my website, thenikkimedoroshow.com. Another thing that's today. Do you know what we didn't do the national calendar day, but it is a big day for anyone, especially if you're a Bay Area native. What is the day, Kim McAllister?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
What happened? I hate doing math. 30 plus years ago. I'll just say that. I'm pretty safe with that one. It was the Loma Prieta earthquake.
Oh, today. Huh?
Yeah. It is today. So where were you? What did you do? If you want to do the live chat, send me some stories. We'll read them. And I'd love to hear from you. But Kim, you were in the Bay Area.
I was at my grandparents' house in Kentfield. They have since passed on. But I remember being in the doorway and feeling it and thinking, oh, this is the big one. And I got underneath my grandpa's old big wood desk. And I looked up and I saw my grandmother come into the room and she was in the door and we just kind of looked at each other. And I was dating a guy at the time who I did not end up marrying, who was at the Giants A's game. And I was really worried about him. But, so that's where I was. And it's one of the things that got me so interested in news because I was glued to coverage right after that, trying to drive to San Francisco to help people in the Marine. Where were you?
So I'll never, it's one of those days, right? You remember exactly where you were. I was doing my homework. I remember I was sitting on my desk in my room and I'm doing my homework. And then the shaking starts and then the shaking doesn't stop. And I remember it was a chair that had wheels and I kind of was trying to stand up and I knocked it over and I kind of fell. And my TV, it was just one of the small, the small TVs you'd have on the edge of my desk and it fell and it almost really hit my leg and it could have really hurt me. And then I just remember my brother running into the room. I just been like, are you okay? After the shaking had stopped.
Yeah.
And I remember being so shocked because I was a kid at the amount of damage, the Cypress structure and the stories that were being told of the people being trapped underneath there. My mom had a friend whose home I think was pretty much leveled during the earthquake. We're going to do news with Kim in just a few moments, but if anyone wants to share some of the memories, it's been 33 years. Thank you to someone who did the math for me. 33 years since the Loma Prieta earthquake. And it's not an if, it's a when. We always say this, especially around this time of year. But I'd love to hear from people, like, was anything of yours significantly damaged? Was anybody that hurt or sadly lost their life in the earthquake? And what has that done as we move forward for you? I mean, do you stay better prepared because of it? Or are you what I would say like a lot of Californians where that earthquake kit got eaten or drank and the medicine, we needed to use it. And all of a sudden that earthquake kit is empty. And why do we seem to fall in those habits when we know that it's only a matter of time before the next earthquake happens? What can we do to kind of keep it at the forefront? Or is it just human nature that we forget? And again, send in some of your stories. I'll read them right after Kim's news. And then again, another reminder, coming up at 1:30, Kevin Fagan with the San Francisco Chronicle will join us, and we're going to talk about the Stockton serial killer. There was an arrest made, so Kevin will tell us all about that, bring us up to speed. What do we know about this guy? Do we have any idea about a possible motive? And are you fascinated by serial killers? I always say I love scary movies and I love gory movies. This is frightening. And I'll share a story also on the other side about how, people are walking around warning people about the serial killer. And is that the way we kind of want to live? Okay, but right now, let's check all of the news with the one and the only Kim McAllister. Oh, do we not have Kim McAllister? I don't know what happened. Oh, hold on, Kim. Hold on. She's not there yet. Okay. So we'll get to
I'm here.
There we go. There we go. All right, Kim, take it away.
Oh, okay. Sorry for our hiccups here on the first day of the show. On the Nikki Medoro Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Wall Street is in rally mode thanks to strong bank earnings. Better than expected earnings from Bank of America and Bank of New York Mellon are helping fuel the surge today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up more than 600 points, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ also sharply higher in the final hour of trading. Biden administration says Russia's latest escalation demonstrates Putin's brutality. Speaking with reporters, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said President Biden is in contact with Ukrainian President Zelensky regarding Russia's missile strikes on civilians in Kyiv. She said the U.S. will continue to work with its allies to impose costs on Russia to hold that country accountable for war crimes. Republicans gaining an edge among voters as the election approaches. That, according to a new poll out by the New York Times, finding 49% of voters plan to vote Republican, 45% Democrat. It's a big change from the September poll that showed Democrats with a 1-point lead. The economy, a major issue for voters, and those concerned favor the GOP by more than a 2-to-1 margin. New records show former President Trump charged the Secret Service as much as 5 times the standard government rate to stay at Trump hotels. Recently obtained by Congress, documents suggest that he charged those exorbitant rates in 40 cases for agents working to protect him and his family. Billing documents show American taxpayers paid at least $1.4 million for those stays at Trump properties. And here's a crazy story out of Florida. You know, think you're doing something nice, helping clean up after the hurricane, and people just can't keep it together. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis being asked to suspend a local mayor over allegations involving a rake. Commissioners want India Atlantic Mayor, India Atlantic, that's the name of the town, Mayor Dave Berkman out of office after he was charged with battery for allegedly hitting a political candidate with a rake. It happened during a Hurricane Ian cleanup event at Orlando Park late last month. Either way, he's not running for re-election, and he will be replaced in early December anyway. Apparently, he is angry at the cleanup. Still time, of course, to get your Powerball lottery tickets. Nikki didn't win in San Jose, but she's got another chance because with no grand prize winner in Saturday night's drawing, tonight's is worth $480 million. The odds of striking the rich, 1 in 292 million.
Wow. Yeah, when you texted me,
Did you
I
win?
was quite disappointed. And then I text my husband because he's better at buying lotto tickets or remembering. He'll just randomly do it. I never, ever do it, I feel like, unless I make a point of I'm going to play in this one. And that 7-Eleven on Cooser near Meridian, I drive past all the time. But my husband told me that there's actually a liquor store right near that 7-Eleven that's known for selling winning tickets. So he's like, even if I was in the area thinking of buying a lotto ticket, I probably would have gone to the liquor store and not that 7-Eleven.
That was the Mega Millions jackpot. And I think the other winner was in Florida. There were 2 winners, but each one gets like $290-something thousand.
I'll take it.
We need it right now. I was really hoping you won it because I'm like, I know she's going to kick down some. I know she is.
Oh, hell yeah. I totally would. I absolutely would. But yeah, I didn't win it, unfortunately.
The news sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. So if you need help with your taxes, and it's just coming upon that time where we might, right? Give Steve a call, 888 Tax Deal, or you can check him out online, MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Hurrah! All right, so we are talking about the 33rd anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake. Thank you for joining us on the very first Nikki Medoro Show. Kim McAllister, of course, joining us and doing news and commentary, just like in the past. But the thing that's different, of course, is it's on YouTube. We need you to hit that thumbs up button right now. If you're just looking at the screen, click it up. It really, really helps us. And if you need any links to our Patreon, if you can help support us that way, theNikkiMedoroShow.com. Okay, so today at 4:00, there is going to be an event commemorating the 33rd anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake. Apparently, there's some sort of artwork that's been developed or created. It suggests the bow of a boat made of wood, painted steel, aluminum, and glass, and partially enclosed by translucent panels featuring historic photographs. So at 4:00, you can attend this event. Now, it's in San Francisco. I'm not driving my ass to San Francisco anymore, but if you're in the area, 4:00 today at Fire Station 35, which is at 399 the Embarcadero. And again, the earthquake hit at 5:04 p.m. God, I remember that day like it was yesterday. And let's read some of the stories, Kim, that are coming in through the live chat on YouTube. Bob G wrote, that earthquake was my first experience with AM radio. My dad was a cop and had to go to work that night. The rest of us tuned into the radio and listened to callers all night. I can't do that now. I know. Let's see. Many of our neighbors lost their houses either because of the fires that started by the propane tank lines breaking or shaking. Our house was newer construction, but we lost every piece of glass we owned. Yeah, isn't that right?
Sylvia says, I was at Nordstrom shopping, was told to leave, even if trying on their clothes. Nothing broken, just books off the shelves. And one from Jorge as well says he felt like he was riding a wave, but then saw the chandelier swing around and it was crazy shaking. And then I saw my mom run out of her room because she was pregnant with my sister. It's kind of a situation as well.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, anybody that remembers that remembers the huge blessing that we had with the A's and Giants playing. And everybody was either glued to their television, or somewhere watching it and not driving. But I've seen some really tragic stories. I'd, just driven off the Cypress structure and it's collapsing behind me. It was just, I remember, just the news reports of the reporters standing and seeing that, that collapse. Watching all those documentaries that were made of the people found, so much time after the earthquake alive. It was just, it's something that stays with you if you went through it. But again, I go back to the whole, but how prepared are we staying for it? It's not top of mind, Kim, that much for people until an earthquake happens. And then it's very easily forgotten. So, I see somebody saying KGO was a lifesaver during that earthquake because of no electricity. I had to listen to the radio in my car. Doesn't that say something? I mean, I know, again, this is a whole new world that we're experiencing with the YouTube channel. And by the way, this also will be turned into a podcast. So if that's the way you want to listen to it, it won't have the visual, of course, but the Nikki Medoro Show will also be in podcast form for you. So we'll let you know when that should be, right after the show or as quickly as we can get it out to you after. Natalie says, I remember seeing it on TV in Louisiana. My dad was watching the baseball game on TV. I mean, the World Series helped save so many lives. Isn't that crazy to think about? And it's one of those things that if you were alive, you won't soon forget it. All right. Again, at 1:30, we'll be talking about the Stockton serial killer with Kevin Fagan with the San Francisco Chronicle. I went to fill up my gas tank, Kim, and gas prices were going down in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, they are a little down. They say 3 cents overnight, and overall, I think it's like it's 28 cents down since last week. So almost 30 cents. Yeah.
So there's still this whole thought about, are we going to be in a recession, right? Is it inevitable? If it's a recession, how bad of a recession are we going to be in? Somebody that I think was the best hire, as they say, appointment ever, honestly, for the Biden administration was Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. This man just nails it, in my opinion, explaining things to people, right? Now, he's done this a couple of times. I'm going to play you his interview. He's on with ABC's George Stephanopoulos. And George is asking Pete pretty basically, like, are we going to be in a recession, and how bad is it going to be? And how should people really think about this? So this is what, let me play this for you, doing it all on my own. This is what Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg had to say.
The threat of a recession is still looming. We saw the head of JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, said it's all but certain to be coming in a few months and it's going to be bad. How worried are you?
Look, it's possible, but not inevitable. And we're doing everything we can to strengthen the foundations of the American economy. And that means a lot on the supply side, expanding the productive capacity of this country. Part of why we do see a lot of pressure on prices is that while demand has come back, Americans have more income because Americans have jobs in this almost historically low level of unemployment. It's been hard for the supply side to keep up. That's a big part of what we're working on the infrastructure side, dealing with some of the bottlenecks that we have, dealing with some of the constraints that we have in transportation infrastructure that's needed to be upgraded for decades, which is why Washington has talked about doing something about it for decades. And under this president, it has finally gotten done.
So what do you think about that? I mean, do you think that that's really resonating with people, Kim? Do you think that they understand fully what it means when people like Pete Buttigieg and others come out and say, look, I know that we're facing inflation. I know that you're paying more at the grocery store, but there is this whole system, this whole infrastructure that's either antiquated or we've moved things offshore that needs to be fixed, and all these things are helping do it. Do you think that that really lands with people as they have to whip
No.
out their credit card or anything
Mm-mm.
like that?
No, I think people look at what they're paying, what things cost a year ago, what they're paying now, and that it's frustrating. And so what people care about is how much money that they're shelling out for every single thing. And when
Yeah.
that comes more in line with what it was, then maybe we'll get somewhere with what people are thinking.
But I'm just wondering, the whole argument, right, about, oh, it's all Biden's fault, right? Biden put too much money into the economy. And now that's led to this inflation that we're seeing. Now, on one hand, I understand that argument. I seriously do. I understand that if you put a lot of money into the economy, those inflationary pressures. On the other hand, and I don't have the clip, but Pete Buttigieg was also saying, imagine having the supply chain issues and then also having a collapsing economy because people don't have the money. I mean, that's what we were facing. It is so easy to look back and judge, right? The Monday morning quarterbacking is a real thing. We can look back and point out mistake after mistake because now we know what happened, right? We do it with COVID all the time. And just a side note, I have given a call to Dr. Peter Chin Hong because I want to talk about the COVID boosters and the surge that could be coming regarding COVID. But a lot of these things, to me, it seems unfair because we know what's happened and we can look back. Be in the moment and make those decisions. When people are without jobs, they don't know when they're going to get another paycheck. They may be evicted. They may lose their home. They can't put food in the literal fridge because they have no money in their bank account. What are you supposed to say to that? Except, okay, we need to give people assistance. And I think that that's so lost on people that we forget how bad it was, right? And how bad it's still going to be for a while. I don't know who thought, like, whoever had the message that once we get a hold of COVID and we have a vaccine, the economy is not going to have any sort of spurts and starts happening, that, zero interest loans are not going to skyrocket after a while. I mean, nobody was saying that. If anything, I remember that K-shaped recovery pounded into our head over and over again. And, and I'm seeing it. I know people blame the guy in power. I get it. And that's part of the job. I wish we were a little more honest about it, right? I wish we were honest and knowing, whether it's OPEC plus, whether it's the fact that, we moved a lot of manufacturing off, that there are global issues and ramifications that are being felt here. If we could be honest about that, then I think that we can move the conversation forward. But right now it's just like, thank you, Joe Biden. And, I don't think that that's fair at all.
We got a couple texts. One from Karen D says there's a big supply chain issue. Goods getting through the pipeline. A lot of truck drivers have quit. We outsourced overseas and they're having problems with COVID. It was a perfect storm. And then she writes, people will blame Biden because they can. They're not looking at 2 years ago when this scenario was set up.
Exactly.
And
then there's
Dave,
people. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Dave writes, the Saudis aren't our ally as they are going to produce less oil. Oil is a component cost of everything.
Exactly. And what's Biden going to do about that? I mean, that is an international relationship that has put our president between a rock and a hard place, right? I mean, it just does. And again, going back to being honest about the problems so we can actually work on a solution is so important. And on that note, and only because I hold Taco Bell so near and dear to my heart, as all of you that have followed my show know, this guy, what is it? Scott Martin. Scott Martin is his name. And he was trying to make a point about inflation. Did you hear about this? No. He was trying to blame President Biden for how much he had to spend on a Taco Bell lunch. So here he is. He's on Fox News Business, okay, talking about, now again, this is one person spending this much money. Here he is.
I mean, admittedly, you want to know how bad inflation is? Yesterday, yes, I had a nice lunch at Taco Bell. Cost me about $28 at Taco Bell for lunch. People need to pay for those things, and they do that by getting jobs and getting in the economy and getting active and getting involved.
Wait a minute. You spent $28 at Taco Bell for just yourself?
For lunch, yeah, it's true.
Okay.
That's a lot of chalupas.
That is a lot of chalupas. That is a lot of chalupas. So he was being called out on this, right? Now he's a financial guy. Anybody that's eaten at Taco Bell knows that guy is full of refried beans. All right. But he did prove it. Okay. So he posted a picture of his receipt. Okay. So here's the receipt.
What did he order?
Exactly. Okay. So let's go over what he decided to spend. So a burrito supreme, $6.09.
That's
expensive. Okay, listen. Don't you dare judge my Taco Bell, Kim McAllister.
Remember
Nacho
when
Bell Grand,
a plain bean burrito used to be like 99 cents?
I think it's like $1.09 or something like that. Yeah, it used to be cheaper. Okay, so Nacho Bell Grand, $7.14. A Baja Freeze, a large one, $3.79. Then you got a nacho cheese Dorito Loco Taco Supreme for $3.19, and then a Dorito cheesy gordita crunch with nacho cheese for $5.19. Taxes and everything came out to, I guess, $28.
That's a big lunch, friend. But that's 2 tacos, a burrito, and a nacho Bel Grande.
Yes.
Yeah.
But people are saying you purposely spent too much money because you can get discounts or like meals, right? So you can get a meal that includes the drink and the burrito
he didn't order economically. He was not a Taco Bell magician. No,
he was not. He was not a Taco Bell magician, which is what you're supposed to be, because rewards, right? And doing it that way, buying things a certain way it's how you save money. One guy wrote, it's so funny. How is this physically possible? Also, I don't think I'll take financial advice from this guy. If you're a financial expert and you're not finding the best deal, I don't want anybody to do that. But again, this is an unfair criticism of President Biden, and it's not an honest look at how much people pay. I mean, how many of you out there, are coupon clipping more? I've told you I use that Fetch app all the time. I wonder how much I have. I have some money in it. I could probably get a $10 discount on Amazon or something with the amount of points that I have, which isn't a lot, but it helps, right? Sure. I mean, it's something. Some people are taking advantage of the fact that there's supply chain issues and keeping their prices high and stuff like that. Dunkin' Donuts. Do I have any Dunkin' fans out there? Dunkin' Donuts is getting vilified by its fans for its rewards program. So apparently it's DD. Is it DD or is it double D? DD Perks program used to offer you 5 points per dollar, which could be redeemed for any size or style coffee once you hit 200 points. So it's not bad. So they also had something called 100-point bonus Mondays. So regular Dunkin' drinkers were able to receive a free drink about every 1 or 2 weeks. Under the new program, you receive 10 points per dollar, but you need to use 500 to 900 points to redeem that coffee. Now, again, the original one was just 200 points. So according to this breakdown, a free Dunkin' signature latte, which you could have earned with $40 of spending, now requires $90 of spending.
It's just another way. Everybody wants theirs. Everyone, everything costs more. Even the perks are getting less perkier.
They're milking these people. They're not being fair with it. In my opinion, this is a company that now is going to get bad PR from it simply because, I'm sorry. Okay, now I will say the lattes, those ones, but drip coffee, and I know coffee bean prices, those have been going up too. So I want to be a little bit fair in my critique. But I think that they're not being honest. Again, back to the honesty. So the thing that's making people upset is how they're promoting it. So on the Dunkin' website, it says the change was made because our members deserve more. Dunkin' Rewards is designed to help keep you running all day long with the best that Dunkin' has to offer. One person felt insulted because they have to spend more money to get the same thing. They said, "Don't try to piss on me and tell me it's raining." Absolutely correct. So, and I also heard Dunkin' Donuts coffee never tastes the same every time you get it. I'm not a Dunkin' drinker.
No,
Is anybody? Apparently, if you order a drink, the same drink every single day, it'll never exactly taste the same.
So I need to have more consistency than that. We got some texts regarding the Taco Bell receipt. Huge in Japan writes, "Rest in peace, his colon."
That is, he needed to clean himself out, I think, a little bit. I think that's what he was trying to do.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about how he's waiting. He has a 6 million calorie lunch. From Eichelberg writes us, "The larger picture, the gig economy, the need for side hustles, and the grind culture are the result of an end stage capitalism, corporate greed. Don't normalize these things, reject them."
Yes, that is a good point. Okay, so when we're talking about inflation, cutting corners or not, here's a question for you. What do you choose to splurge on? Is it food? Is it like, you know what, I'm going to spend $28 at Taco Bell because I can spend $28 at Taco Bell. Is it clothes? Is it trips? Now, I know Kim McAllister, we've had this conversation before. You won't go cheap on trips, right?
No, I'd rather not take them.
See, I'm the complete opposite.
Like,
I'll just take it.
Say, you can take your kids to Disneyland and stay in this rat trap of a hotel.
Right.
Or if you could wait a year and have an extra special vacation and stay somewhere fancy, I'm going fancy. I would rather skip that year in between. Right? If I'm going to take the time to pack everybody up and travel there and do it all, if you're doing it, you're doing it. My husband's grandmother, Grandma Julia, who's my daughter is named after. We used to talk about how in my family, the way I was raised, you never order the most expensive thing on the menu. You always pay attention to what you're ordering and how much it costs, right? In her mind, if you can't afford the meal, don't go out to dinner. Like, if you're going to go and order what you want. And if you can't,
that's a good point.
Then don't go. And that's kind of, I think, how I lean. Like, if I can't go, not that I would, but if I can't go and order the most expensive thing on the menu, then I really ought not to be going. And I'm just going to wait until I should. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I was one of those, my dad always used to take us out when we were kids to whatever restaurant we wanted to go to for our birthday. And my favorite restaurant to go to was Benihana's. Okay. And I would always order the steak and lobster. I would always order the steak and lobster. Yeah. I was that kid. Like, right? I want steak and lobster. And it was so expensive. I remember the day my parents told me, "We're not taking you on vacations anymore. And we're not buying you your birthday dinner anymore." And it's just like, oh, I know I'm an adult, but come on. Right.
Yeah.
But now when I go out to dinner, my daughter, she's a steak eater, right? I want the steak. I'm like, we're just going out to, a regular restaurant. You don't need to order the steak. It's not so fancy schmancy, but she's got those kind of tastes, Kim McAllister. So, but speaking of like paying for the fanciness of it all, did you see that Chronicle story about the French Laundry? They ask a simple question. Is the French Laundry overhyped or worth it? I've never eaten there. Have you ever eaten at the French Laundry?
No, but I've been to various places where the menu is very small, like the dishes that come out are small but pricey
Uh-huh.
type of thing. And there are some people like my husband who is a foodie and a cook and enjoys that stuff. But if you're
Right.
gonna put some exotic stuff in front of me, I don't really want it anyway.
I
And I
don't
don't want to
either.
pay $8 million a plate for it. So I'm not the one you take to those places.
We're twins. Now, I want to read you some of the responses to the Chronicle's question. Now, the French Laundry, I have absolutely no idea how much it would even run. But here was one of the comments that says from Ben. It says, "Yes, it's worth it. You should go there if you have something to really celebrate. Not just celebrate, but really celebrate. And then you should just relax and roll with it. Obviously, you have to have enough funds for it not to hurt. $700 plus wine for two, but making memories is sometimes worth it."
Okay, so if you're the kind of person that enjoys that type of food experience and you have the money, go ahead and go.
Yeah,
Like both of those are a no for me. Like number one, I won't enjoy it. Number two, I'm not spending $700 on that meal. So no.
The thing that I don't understand is I wonder if I would even be able to enjoy it, because every plate that you put in front of me, I'd be like, this is not worth $700.
Take it
And
back.
I don't know who made it. And I've never been there, so I don't even know what the food looks like. So
You don't get to
again,
pick either. They pick for you and bring it out to you.
what if I don't like it? And does it
Right.
change or does it stay the same?
If you are that kind of a person who would enjoy that, then you trust the chef to choose the food for you and have the experience. It's an experience. It's more of an experience than it is,
Experience losing my
you know,
money.
you're not just eating to eat at that point. You're eating for the experience. And I would say, I mean, I'm sure there are people that go there all the time, but for many people, that would be kind of a once in a lifetime thing. If you were into it.
Yeah, could you imagine going there all the time?
No.
No. And so, yeah, splurging. So I do splurge on my kids most of the time. Not that they're spoiled, but it's if they need new stuff like clothes, whatever, let's go get what you need. If it's me, and my mom laughs at me all the time about this, I am so cheap. And I fully put
You
them
really are. You
I
are
really
very
am.
cheap.
I am
You're
so cheap.
frugal. We'll call you frugal. Frugal
call me
Fanny
cheap.
over there.
The best example I always give is belts. I don't understand people that spend like $50 on a belt that is under a shirt. It boggles my mind, and it literally pains me to separate myself from money for things like that. But if it's my kids or, I need something, or this dog that I have sitting behind me, damn spoiled dog, I seem to splurge on that. Food, the experience, perhaps. I would splurge on a trip. Like I would be more like you if it was a big deal. Like when we
Right.
went to Disneyland after COVID, and some of the messages in the chat are mentioning COVID and I want to splurge. I
Yeah.
understand, because we haven't done anything for so long. So I can justify it.
Sure.
Every year,
No.
no. And then even if I'm taking my kids, let's say someplace, I even gauge how much I think they're going to enjoy it. I'm like, am I going to get the ROI on the love and the appreciation on this? Or is it going to be just an
No.
aggravation the whole entire time? So there are things I have to weigh. But as far as the French Laundry, I don't know. I've never tried it, so I shouldn't fully knock it. Let me read a couple more. This person says it's not worth it. The food is much less interesting and much less excellent than what you can find at other Bay Area restaurants for comparatively less hassle. It's become a sort of self-reflecting, fine dining theme park more than a vibrant restaurant.
A fine
So-
dining theme park. That's really a great way to put it.
That is really, I love the way they put it, because it becomes, like you mentioned, an experience. And if you're thinking of it that way, is the pressure on to live up to it, right? It's, well, do you know how hard it was for me to get this reservation? And this is only going to be the only time I come here. And so I better enjoy every single morsel and drop of my meal. And on one hand, someone might say, I loved every ounce of it because I just spent $700 on a meal. On the other hand, if you're kind of like me, you might be like, that was good. I don't know if it was $700 good, but it was pretty good. So I think if we're going to be talking about inflation and where we put our money and what we splurge on, French laundry is probably at the bottom of my list. I think if I'm going to splurge on anything, it's probably going to be a vacation because the experience for me lasts a lot longer than a meal in my stomach. So, okay, stick with the Nikki Medoro Show. God, it's so easy to go back to what I used to say. Stick with us.
Don't do it.
I know. Kevin Fagan with the Chronicle will be joining us. We're going to talk about the Stockton serial killer. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I want to hear from you guys if, one, how you've been feeling with this guy out there, if you even live in the area. I'll share a story about someone saying something to my kid about this serial killer, which kind of freaked me out. And of course, how fascinated are you by, serial killers and these documentaries? There's the Jeffrey Dahmer one that's on Netflix that I totally watched, but it's really gruesome. And does our fascination with serial killers lead to more people wanting to get that sort of infamy? So that is all coming up. But right now, of course, it is time to get a news update with the one and only, our news czar, Kim McAllister.
This is the Nikki Medoro Show, and I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. The White House is launching an online portal for Americans to apply for student loan forgiveness. President Biden says the portal at studentaid.gov requires no paperwork and takes just 5 minutes to apply. He went on to describe the program as a game changer for millions of Americans. Actor Kevin Spacey is taking the stand in the sexual misconduct trial against him. He denied accusations made by fellow actor Anthony Rapp, accusing Spacey of sexually assaulting him in 1986 when he was 14 years old and Spacey was 26. While testifying, Spacey also recalled his humiliating, terrifying upbringing, he called it, by a father he described as a white supremacist and a neo-Nazi who instilled in him a hatred of bigotry. As calls continue for 2 Los Angeles City Council members to resign, both men are being stripped of committee assignments now. Acting Council President Mitch O'Farrell says Kevin De Leon and Gil Cedillo are being taken off several council committees. Both men were caught making racist remarks about redistricting in a conversation with then Council Nuri Martinez, who has resigned. A suspected serial killer in Northern California set to be arraigned in court tomorrow. Police arrested 43-year-old Wesley Brownlee, whom they believe is responsible for 6 deadly shootings that started in 2021. He's being held without bail on open charges, they call it, including felony murder. UC Davis named in an investigation by the Dallas Morning News as one of several schools using software to keep track of students' social media. The software, called Detect, uses AI to scan social media posts. Officials with UC Davis saying the software is not being used to track students, but rather prevent them from harming themselves or others. They say their main priority is to keep students safe. The Dallas Morning News reporting on this one. They also report the Detect software can allow campus police to do surveillance on student protests. A woman in California fired from her job because of a TikTok video. This video showed coffee spilling all over the counter after she forgot to put her mug underneath the coffee maker. The coffee spill, though, not what got 24-year-old Michelle Cerna fired. It was the work meeting playing on her laptop in another room that got her into trouble there. Cerna says she didn't realize the meeting could be heard in the video. She was called into human resources and fired. The company let her go, they say, because she didn't get consent from her coworkers or the company for recording a confidential conversation and for making social media videos during work. Cerna said rejection is redirection, and she's starting her own company now.
Well, I respect that, absolutely. But that seems a little harsh, don't you think? I mean, I wonder what they were talking about that they didn't want.
So number one, you got her goofing off during where she's supposed to be attending a work
That's
meeting.
true.
She's, I got my coffee spilled on the counter. TikTok,
Yeah,
right?
that's
So
true.
there's
That's
number
true.
one, she's weird. And number two, then you have the inattentiveness to detail, that led her then to possibly broadcast confidential work information on the internet. 2 strikes, you're out.
Yeah, look at you. I don't want you as my boss. You're harsh. Wow. All right.
She gone. The news sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve, who we absolutely adore and is a founding sponsor of the Nikki Medoro Show, has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. So if you need help with this, please give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can get him on the web, moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. Thank you so much, Kim. So again, hello again. So we are going to be talking about the Stockton serial killer in just a moment. If you guys are just joining us, please help support the show. The easiest way that costs you not a dime is to just hit that thumbs up button. You can hit the thumbs up button on YouTube, and that does something amazing, I guess, for the show. So do it on every single show. Again, we do have a Patreon up and running. You can get all the information on our new website that's been launched, thenikkimedoroshow.com. There, right at the top, you can link it to, you see a button to the YouTube channel, and then right below, it's a way to donate to our Patreon.
You're really good with those like buttons and banners. I'm impressed.
I've been practicing. It's the only thing I got going for me, woman. I mean, we're doing it all on our own. There we go. And again, we don't have calls yet. I'm hoping Mark Thompson figures it out and shares the information with me. But until we do, I am going to try this new thing where you guys can send me voice memos. If you know how to do that with your phone, it's already built in. You just record yourself like you're talking in a voicemail and you send it to me, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. And you can either send me your opinion about topics for the show. I'll be teasing those out. And that way I can play some callers or listeners' voices on our show. So that's all coming. We're just kind of figuring it out as we go, but I appreciate each and every one of you that is here and is kind of supporting the show in whatever way is possible. But right now, we need to welcome Kevin Fagan with the San Francisco Chronicle. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on our show. This story with the Stockton serial killer has been fascinating. We have a history with serial killers in this area, and you've been following serial killers for decades, I've learned.
Yes, I have. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. First off, thanks for having me, and congratulations on the launch of your podcast.
Thank you.
I don't want to mention KGO too much, but I've loved listening to you for years on that station. I'm sorry it changed. I'm glad you have a new format.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much.
It's funny. I called Kevin to be on. I think I was filling in for Mark at one point.
Yeah.
I called him to be on the show, and by the time he called back, we're fired. Like that's it. We're laid off. Yeah. He's like, hey, I don't even know if you have this phone number anymore, but I really appreciated the nice words. And you are the first official guest of the Nikki Medoro Show.
You are. You are first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't even going to have guest Kevin, but I was like, you know what? This is a story that so many people are fascinated by. And then over the weekend, we found out that an arrest has been made. So kind of bring us up to speed on what's going on.
Well, over the weekend, the Stockton police, together with this giant task force they put together of the FBI, local agencies from Lodi to, the San Joaquin County Sheriff's deputies, did surveillance on a guy, followed him around, and then arrested him around 2 a.m. Saturday. This guy named Wesley Brownlee. He's 43 years old. He's got a history of drug convictions in Alameda County, and he's got some other criminal history that's a little unclear. It's still coming forth, but they got him with a gun and a mask and dressed in dark clothing, which all seemed to fit what the serial killer had been described as in the previous killings. And they they did a search warrant on his house, and supposedly got some evidence there. So he's sitting in jail right now. He'll be arraigned tomorrow, and the cops are fairly certain they got the right guy.
Well, I'm happy to hear that because obviously it's just alleged at this point. And just to let you know, you're not at home, right, Kevin? You had to step out to do this interview with us because we're hearing like some sort of scary music in the background.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry. Let me try to get to a different place.
No,
Is it
you're
okay
fine.
with this?
Okay. No, it's okay. Yo, you're fine. I just want to explain to people that you're taking a break from actually working to come hop on and give us all the breaks on this.
Yes,
now,
I am.
all the details. So now they think that this Wesley Brownlee guy is the person. Now, I was hearing, or have you, I guess, heard any sort of confirmation of how he was choosing his victims? Was this just sort of random? Do they have any sort of idea or looking into any sort of motive? Because people are walking around happy that this guy's been arrested. But now the big question is, why the hell was he murdering all these people?
It's a really good question. Serial killers always have some kind of motive, and it's always twisted because, in my mind, if you're a serial killer, you're twisted to begin with. So whatever reason he had for doing this is not going to make a whole lot of sense, and it's going to be probably offensive. If this is the guy, whoever was doing the killing, there was a commonality in the victims in that most were Latino and most were homeless. So whether he was really targeting that is another question. You could also say it was random because a large percentage of Stockton is Latino. Homeless people are pretty easy to find. And what he did is he killed people in the dark in isolated places. Well, you're going to find a lot of homeless people in the dark in isolated places. And like I said, a lot of the population is Latino. So trying to figure out why he targeted who he did is a guessing game right now to a large extent. And the cops are not, of course, coming out with a whole lot of that kind of information. They like to hold stuff to their vests pretty close in a case like this, because once they get a guy into an interrogation room, once they get him on a witness stand, they want to have things that have not been out there in public so they can be batted away by a defense attorney. So
Right. You know,
we reporters love to know all this stuff, but they don't tell it to us.
Since the story came out that there was a possible serial killer, on the run in Stockton, police have really pulled out all the stops to find this person, and it had the victim in Oakland, that one of the only victim that was survived. I don't know if that was the Oakland person or not, but there was one person that managed to survive, and they said, "Hey, I'm a homeless person. They looked at me, they judged me, they didn't take me seriously. And if they had, then it could have prevented a lot of people from dying here." And I wonder if there's anything to that, because once they actually took it seriously, put out the word that, yes, there's a serial killer on the loose, they seem to have caught the person really fast.
They did. It was a woman in Stockton who survived, and that was about a year and a half ago.
Oh, wow.
He killed one guy. It was a homeless man in Oakland, and then right around the same time shot but did not kill a homeless woman in Stockton. And the woman came up with her descriptions were a little filmy because the guy had a mask on. He was dressed in black. Couldn't tell much about him. But she gave what she did to the police. At the time, they didn't know they were dealing with a serial killer.
Right.
And in fact, until just a few weeks ago, they didn't know they were dealing with a serial killer. These 5 killings in Stockton happened between July and late last month. So, you have to start putting together patterns and similarities in ballistics. And that's really what turned it. It's when they figured out the same gun was used to kill these 5 men in Stockton. Because trying to sort, not to be a total apologist for anyone, but trying to sort through dozens of murders every year, even in a city that's, about 300,000 people or so in Stockton, it's tough to put together the patterns, and you don't want to leap to conclusions. There have been tons of theories put out since the police first announced they were looking for a serial killer, and every killing that involved a guy in dark clothing as an assailant who shot someone to death, they've suddenly been heaped onto the bonfire of must be the serial killer. Right. So and all of them so far have been debunked, but you got to sort through all that stuff to figure out what's what.
Kevin, what about the idea of the victims? If they were largely from the homeless community, is that a kind of a message about this? We've heard of past serial killers targeting, prostitutes. This whole idea of no one's going to notice, no one's going to miss them. Could there be something of that there?
Yeah, absolutely. The last one I can remember of real note was the hobo killer, and I believe he's in the 90s. The guy rode the rails and killed hobos, and just figured that no one was going to notice. And I think he did dozens of people, and people didn't notice. So when he got, I remember I rolled up to Auburn in the Sierra Foothills where the cops had him in a jailhouse being interrogated, and every agency from here to Bakersfield was rolling up on this guy saying, all right, who did you do in our jurisdiction? Because not only were they hard to notice because they were homeless and people didn't pay as much attention, but they were spread out all over the place. This particular killer only killed in the north part of Stockton. I mean, it was about a 4-mile radius. It's amazing that he thought he was brazen enough to go out and try it again, if this is the right guy.
Yeah.
JR is asking a question from the chat line. He wants to know, Kevin, how odd is it to find an alleged serial killer that is not a white male, not as rare as a female serial killer, but still a rarity?
Yeah, it's a rarity. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
it is.
There are, of course, people of color who are serial killers, but your usual serial killer is a white guy. I mean, you look at the most prominent ones in history, most of whom I've written about, at least in the last 40 years or so. William Bonham, the freeway killer, killed about 40 boys in L.A., rolled around with a death wagon, kidnapping them off the street and raping and torturing and finally throwing them out naked on the highway. He's a white guy. Zodiac, of course, is a white guy. The Golden State Killer, white guy. BTK killer in Kansas.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Son of Sam. It's pretty rare. Ted Bundy. Name off the most prominent ones, and there's not a lot of black folks in them.
Yeah.
Or brown folks or yellow folks. It is not a rainbow of diversity.
So, Kevin, before I let you go, what's going to happen next? Tomorrow, I believe, right? He's going to be in court. Is that correct?
Yeah, 1:30 in Stockton. They'll arraign him, which is where he just essentially, usually you just show up and you say you plead
guilty or not.
Yeah. And then you got to do a preliminary hearing where the cops present their evidence, the defense attorneys try to rebut, and then if the judge determines there's enough evidence to take him to trial, then he goes to trial. So this thing's going to roll on for quite a while. It's not going to be quick.
No, it's not.
I have a question for you too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Nikki. I wanted to know, I saw the word today that $125,000 was the reward money and that they're going to be giving it out. So I wondered if police had given you any tips on who may have given the winning tips or who's going to get that money.
Yeah.
Not so far. There was a Facebook group that I wrote about last week that got started.
Yeah, I joined them. I've been reading some of the stuff and they're really excited that he's been caught.
Oh, they're very excited. And it was a very interesting effort. It's not that common to get a whole community crowdsourcing group like that. It was created to vent your frustrations and your concerns and your fears, but also to put in tips. I tell you, people from Sweden, Detroit, New York were weighing in on this thing. Once my story kind of went out on the wires, and so it got publicized quite a bit, and it was astonishing to see the participation. Last time I looked, there were about 4,000 people, members of the page.
I just joined, yeah.
Yeah.
People really are fascinated by it, Kevin. I think, and because you've been covering serial killers for decades, it doesn't seem to be waning how much this grips communities because it's so frightening.
It is. And part of it is, there's one thing that always occurs to me because I covered the Unabomber and the Zodiac and tons of these guys. And the thing to remember is that it is not infotainment. They're real dead people involved and real grieving victims. And even the killer is usually mentally whacked and damaged. And it's a horrible, sad story there. And the family's embarrassed and horrified, or the family was abusive. Even no matter what, there's no winners in any of this.
No.
And there's nothing entertaining to be had in it. But people are just fascinated. Part of it is we have such a violent society. And serial killers have become a thing. Serial killers only became a term even in the mid to late 70s, and then really caught on as a phenomenon in the 80s as more serial killers started emerging. It's a relatively new thing, and it's fascinating because it involves so much death and mystery, and everyone likes to be an armchair sleuth. But you also got to remember there are real people involved, and it's always horrible.
Absolutely. Kevin Fagan with the San Francisco Chronicle. Thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy day and coming on and being my first guest on the Nikki Medoro Show. Thank you so much. We'll get you back on soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Good luck with your show, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right. So yeah, I mean, it is fascinating. And that's a great question about, where the money is going to go. But speaking of money, speaking about friends of the show, our number one friend, of course, is the one and only Steve Moskowitz, who joins us now. And Steve, tough to follow serial killers, of course, but you have very important information to give out to our listeners. Thank you so much again for being our exclusive sponsor of the Nikki Medoro Show and being a huge support to not only myself, but to Mark Thompson as well, because you give some valuable information and you'll continue to do so on our show.
Absolutely. And Nikki, thank you so much. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be associated with your show. And remember, I've been an avid listener for a long time. So it's a pleasure for me personally as well. And today is a special day, October 17th. This is the last day. You have until midnight tonight to file your amended return for individuals or C Corps. And even though it's 10 minutes to 2, there are still people working on their returns. And there's a lot of people that got their returns this morning from their tax preparer over the weekend and said, oh my God, they can't pay the taxes. What are they going to do? Don't make the mistake of not filing the returns. That's where the big penalties are. If you can't pay the taxes, that's okay. File the return. And then we want to make a deal for you, whether it's an offer in compromise. That's where you just pay part and the government forgives the rest if you qualify. Or you pay in monthly installments, or you have the penalties forgiven, or you have a situation where there's been a change in circumstance, like you lost your job or your business closed. And if that's the case, there's something called the hardship deferral, where we just go to the government and say, hey, leave my client alone until he or she is back making some money again, and then we'll make a deal with you. There's so much we want to do for you. There's so many options, but whatever you do, don't stick your head in the sand, because there's new 87,000 IRS agents they want to hire. Those people have to do something, and part of it's going to be coming after you, and they've gotten heavy-handed. Bottom line is, in almost all cases, we can do everything for you, and you don't have to talk to the government.
I love that, Steve. I'd rather talk to you than talk to anyone from the government. So give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or of course, find him at moskowitzllp.com. Until tomorrow, Steve, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nikki. Always a pleasure.
You.
Hi, Steve.
So yeah, I mean, give Steve a call, of course, at 888-TAX-DEAL or moskowitzllp.com. Okay, so we only have a few minutes left of the show. It went by very quickly. Again, if you're just joining us, please click the thumbs up button. We're going to continue to remind you about this every show because we're just launching, and I deeply appreciate every single one of you. I apologize to those that I have not been able to respond to personally. It's just me. It's just Kim. And we're doing our best to kind of get out to everybody. But we've been kind of moving full steam ahead, getting the show launched, having a logo, doing the podcast, learning how to do all of these things. And so your patience is appreciated and your support is appreciated. So if you can click the thumbs up, that helps us. Doesn't cost you a dime. If you go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, you'll find a link to our Patreon, which also really helps us and gets a little bit of money into my pocket and to Kim's pocket as well. So.
We just hit the 700 thumbs up. Lisa writes, I wish I could see Nugget's face. Okay. So they want you to hold the dog up so they can see his face.
He's
I don't know. He might fight you on that.
He's sleeping.
Cheryl
The
says,
dog
so
is
cute to see
sleeping.
your doggy behind you. Yeah, you don't want to bother Nugget. Nugget, can you see
I
his face?
I put a note on my front door, like, do not ring this bell or knock. This is the joy of working at home in my little home studio. I have Matthew here, who is just always our number one guest, even if he's not here in person.
Oh, Matthew.
But
My
yeah,
kind of hottie.
my kind of hottie. So yeah, it's been a great time getting this show going. I'll call Nugget my producer. He's my producer. He just sits there and sleeps all day, but we love him. I'm also going to try to bring some of the features from the show at the other station on. Try to get a hold of someone either from the San Francisco SPCA, speaking of dogs, or another local animal agency to come and highlight some of the animals that they have for adoption. And again, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com is my email address. You can send me voice memos. You can reach out that way. You can send me tips, stories, whatever from right there. And I'll try to go through them as quickly as I possibly can.
Exciting.
I know.
Kit Kats wants to know, are you going to do the take out that damn trash segment?
Oh, I need to get this. Well, we don't have the sound necessarily. All that stuff got left behind. But yeah, the celebrity trash, I'm going to have to do that. I can actually do one right now because you just brought it up. And I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
CJ writes, whoever's producing this has every idea what they're doing. You know what? Not every show has a fabulous producer, John Daly.
No.
So, we kind of have to step up and do some things ourselves here. So we appreciate you texting us. So much participation on the text line. That's been really, really wonderful. And I'm trying to sift through those and get them to Nikki. Also, Debbie writes in, on the plus side, your commute is a whole lot shorter.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, absolutely it is. So love it. And, and it works, and we're making it work, and we appreciate all of you. So in the last minute, I'm going to do one quick celebrity trash, simply because I could not believe this story when I saw it. And Kim, if I was this person's wife / mother of the child, I would kill this person. Not literally, but almost. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is in this new movie. Okay. It's called Black Adam. Okay. And he's in Mexico City at a press event to kind of promote the show. There was an Instagram video that went around where, as there's this huge crowd, it's shot from the Diego Rivera Museum, large, like a concert crowd. Okay. All of a sudden, there is a baby. Now I'm looking at this picture. This baby, maybe 4 months old, crowd surfs. Some father has decided that he wants The Rock to hold his child. And so I'm going to share this.
With COVID going around, you're going to pass your baby to a crowd?
They don't give two licks about anything like that.
What if somebody dropped the baby in the crowd? No, I'm sorry. You're right.
Here we go.
I'm with you.
Here we go. Okay. Are you ready? Watch this. Handed the baby off. No. I do not care. But that baby is calm. That baby is calm.
The baby has to go back through the crowd. Wow.
Yeah. So apparently, Luciana is her name. The Rock was so happy about it. He's like, the father caught my attention because he had tears in his eyes when he held her up high and gestured for me to hold her. I honestly thought he was holding a toy doll that he wanted me to have as a gift. This beautiful, serene, present, and trusting angel is Luciana. One day, I bet she'll inspire all those around her. It would inspire me as the mom to beat that ass. If that was my husband and the father of my child handing my baby off to a crowd of people, I don't care who the hell's at the other end of it. You're dead meat, man. Absolutely.
Unsafe for a million reasons. Yeah, I'm with you.
No.
Unacceptable.
That is not going to happen. Okay, so the show's wrapping up. Again, hit that thumbs before the show is over. Tomorrow, we didn't get to a bunch of stuff. So used to a 4-hour show, it's 2 hours, but I really appreciate it. We're going to talk about Halloween. It's making a comeback, but in different ways. It's coming back to the Castro, but as a family-friendly event. So what does that mean? I want to get into some of the propositions. I've been reaching out to some of the people behind each of them, but we haven't had them confirm anything yet.
That's exciting, though, because I think a lot of people are looking at the ballot pamphlet just came in the mail for us yesterday. And we were sitting down looking at it, and I just haven't done the research yet. So that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, so either we'll get the yes and the no's on, or we'll debate them right here on the show. The dialysis proposition, the 3 times a charm.
Again?
Why do we keep targeting these dialysis patients?
Listen, we already told you to go away. Now you keep putting it in front of us like you don't want our answer.
Exactly.
We already told you no.
Said no. So there's an editorial, I think it was in the LA Times, but I could be wrong, about from the yes on, I think it's 29. So we'll go over that tomorrow. Yeah, it's 29. And
if you make it confusing enough, we'll finally give you the answer you wanted.
I have not seen one commercial convincing me to vote yes on that proposition. All I keep saying is leave the dialysis people alone. So
and then there's this, they put this feeble old lady, I need more oversight at the dialysis class. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I don't know.
Automatically, and then whatever you wanted me to do, I'm doing the opposite.
I know. If this lady is the face of it, no. And then we'll also try to debate the sports betting, gambling propositions, which now whole different meaning for us. But the 2 propositions are vastly different. One has to do with the tribes making money, the other for the major sports betting online. So we'll have that debate coming up this week.
We had a dispute at the kitchen table over that one. Yeah.
Ooh, all right. Yeah. We'll have to hear about that. Thank you, Kim McAllister, my partner.
Thank you
for
having me.
So
I love you too.
All of you guys. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. Please, if you can, help with our Patreon. Share the YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up after every single show. And we will talk tomorrow. Thank you all so much. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.